The tri-state has many challenges related to climate change, including combating a large amount of skepticism. Today, we'll learn more about efforts to address climate change effects in our area. That's coming up next on WNIN Newsmakers. To WNIN Newsmakers, I'm Jessica Costello, evening news anchor at Eyewitness News. Climate change is a common headline in the national news, from weather reports to how it can affect our health. Locally, some groups are working to improve our environment, and part of that effort is the Evansville Climate Collaborative. And Lauren Norvell joins us now to explain what it's all about. Lauren, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, we have a lot to talk about here. First of all, it might be a new name to some people, the Evansville Climate Collaborative. Yes. What is that?
So we repurposed the agency that was the Evansville Environmental Protection Agency, which was founded in 1971, 73. And it was basically in its first course of its history was serving IDEM, so Indiana Department of Environmental Management. It was kind of like a satellite office for IDEM, and we contracted with IDEM to protect the environment. But it was really all about air pollution. That's really all the agency did as far as environmental protection. So it was really misleading. The name was misleading, and people thought that we did everything, water and recycling and you know, solid waste and all of it. So when I came on board, we discussed repurposing the agency and giving it a new brand and a new identity and a new set of functions.
So that all started when Mayor Stephanie Terry took over, correct?
Yes, yes. Mayor Winnicky actually kind of started me on the track end of last year, and we discussed it. And then when Mayor Terry came on and reappointed me, and I discussed with her about the idea of rebranding the agency, she was all for it.
Well, I want to talk about your role, because you made a comment right before we started that struck me, because some people might not have a clue what you do. So what is your actual title? What do you do? Is there a team behind you? What does that all look like?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the agency is now called the Evansville Climate Collaborative, and it's basically a collaborative force. We're hoping to lead the regional community in improving our air quality, so we have a healthier community. And so it's about collective action, collaboration with other agencies, with other businesses, with other not-for-profits. So it isn't focused just on the city. But my role is the Climate Action Director, and my role is to basically spearhead and champion those efforts. So again, looking at ways we can implement the Evansville Climate Action Plan. So there's many strategies in the plan. In fact, there's 58 strategies in the plan that we can incorporate through 2050 that will help with this goal of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions and improving our air quality. So I work not only through the lens of looking at how we can improve the city and reduce its air emissions and reduce its energy use and costs, but also working with the entire community, because air quality doesn't follow our city boundaries, and air quality is not something that the city alone can do. Our city operations account for only 3% of our greenhouse gas emissions in the area. So we can work internally, but we have to work externally with partners. So Absolutely. That's my role.
Trying to understand, your reach here. Obviously, you can't get everywhere, but, we often call ourselves the tri-state. We have so many larger communities and counties, neighboring us. Is there any effort to ever work with, maybe somewhere like Perry County or somewhere like that maybe it's not directly touching Evansville?
Absolutely. We just reinvented the agency. We're just getting started. I've only been in this position for 9 months. So we've done a lot of foundation building, and we're still building foundation, identity, relationships, et cetera. So we have a lot of work to do, but Evansville's greenhouse gas emissions are only like 45,000 metric tons of CO2. The neighboring county is only about, the county is only about 2 million metric tons of CO2. But the surrounding counties, by far, even though their populations are lower, they actually emit a whole lot more greenhouse gas emissions, upwards of 10 million metric tons of CO2. And that's strictly because of the coal-fired power plants that surrounds us.
Right.
But Evansville residents benefit from those coal-fired power plants. So we have to work regionally. Just think of all the commuting that we do back and forth in and out of Evansville. We work, live, and play together. So yes, as a region, we're going to have to work together.
Now, this is obviously all about climate change. And sometimes when I started reading through this, I was like, sometimes I feel like climate change can be one of those things that people could use the phrase out of sight, out of mind. Because if it doesn't directly affect me, if I don't see it or feel it affecting me every day, it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
Well, it does exist. It very much does. And if you can kind of go over how climate change is affecting us here locally, whether it's Evansville or outside, wherever you guys are reaching, how maybe can you enlighten the average person that it is truly affecting us here?
Yeah. Well, climate change is a hard thing to grasp. It's a monumental problem, and it's going to take every person to tackle the problem and come up with solutions and implement solutions. So it is something that the average person has trouble grasping, and it is a long-term problem. And even if you put solutions in today, it's going to be a little bit of a delay before you see results. And people have a really hard time pushing that to the forefront of their mind or the top of their priority list because it's down the road, right? So we have trouble prioritizing climate change because it's such a big problem, and it's very inconvenient. No one wants to be inconvenienced with driving less or taking the recyclable bags into the grocery store. It's just the actions are not ingrained upon us through our generation so far, but the new generations are definitely perking up and realizing things, and they're forming those habits early, and those habits should continue on to be better habits for our climate. But to your question on how is climate change affecting the average person, yes, it is. Even here in Evansville, when we're not close to the coast or close to, the wildfires that were in Canada or close to the earthquakes in California or whatever, a lot of things that happen even anywhere in our country affect us here, like the wildfire smoke that we saw last summer, or the droughts that happen in the Southwest that affect our food prices, or the crazy storms and temperature variations that we see in Florida that can affect our crops. So we feel the climate effects even if we don't see them here on a regular basis. But even in Evansville, we're seeing more extreme weather, more extreme storms come in. We're seeing more rain in the winter when we don't need it, and then it just ends up being a flooding problem instead of being absorbed into the ground where the plants can use it. We see more flooding. We see more drought. We're going to see extremely hot days in the summer. Not every day, not every summer, but they're projecting, 60, 95 plus degree days by 2050 if we don't curb greenhouse gas emissions. So many things affect us even here in Evansville with our weather and climate.
You just brought up a long list of things we should be thinking about. Is there one particular issue, though, that you would say is the most pressing issue in the tri-state or even just in Evansville?
Well, Evansville is in the southern tip of the state, obviously, and so for Indiana, we will experience the worst changes in the state for excessive heat and excessive intense weather events. So, and in the Ohio River Valley, we suffer the worst air pollution in the state because we are in a river valley surrounded by coal-fired power plants, so we breathe that air. So those things, heat, air quality, intense storms, those are going to affect us in Evansville more than the rest of the state.
And how do we, I'd hate to ask, what is the solution to make sure those things don't get worse? Because that's probably a difficult question, but that's also part of your role too. So what do the solutions look like?
Well, the solutions are not determined by me. I mean, there are expert scientists that just determine what is our outlook, and curbing greenhouse gas emissions that continue to warm is the answer, and it's just how do we do that? And it's not a popular solution that we have to solve, but we have to solve it. So, all of the cities, not all the cities, many cities, in fact, majority of the cities at this day and age are planning. They have climate action plans. They have some sort of staff that focus on it because every city, every community every person has to start reducing greenhouse gas emissions, so their daily impacts. So in the city of Evansville, we developed that climate action plan, and it's a start to looking at how do we contribute less to global warming, and that would be how do we contribute less greenhouse gas emissions. So as the city, we will be looking at things like reducing energy use in our transportation methods, promoting more public transportation, promoting more electric vehicles, building more electric vehicle infrastructure, promoting hybrid vehicles, looking at ways to connect communities so there's more walkable, bikeable paths to get there. People that live downtown walk and bike a whole lot more than people that live and commute to and from work downtown when they live in the outskirts of the city. So we can find ways to reduce our transportation emissions, and buildings are the same. We can find ways to reduce energy use by increasing our energy efficiency, converting to clean energy like solar. All those things are incredibly impactful to reducing our greenhouse gas emissions and our energy use.
The Climate Action Plan was one thing that I wanted to talk about because, you know, this is probably something that if people are watching this and they want to maybe be a part of the solution, this could be something they need to read up on.
Yeah.
When was this created, and how often will it be updated? Because climate change is most likely maybe an unpredictable, ever-changing thing. It's very hard to predict. So how often does something like this need to be updated?
Well, the Climate Action Plan that we have now was actually on task to be developed in 2020, and about that time is when COVID hit and things shut down. They still did get an incredible amount of engagement and input from community stakeholders. They had virtual town halls, they had resident surveys, they had all kinds of ways to collect input, and they had a huge stakeholder committee. So the first plan that we have was published in 2021 with all of that input and all of those stakeholders, and you can see the whole list of all of those things in the document if you just search for it online. And it is a good start, you know, like it was our first. So it's a really good beginning to coming up with a consensus on how we do this. It basically kind of stretches out a list of ideas through now through 2050. So it's kind of like abstract and hard to really wrap your brain around because it's some big things and long term. So we are getting ready to revise it and update it for 2025. So what we're going to do is take those strategies that the community came up with, and we're going to kind of condense them into, I mean, there's 58 strategies, and a lot of them are kind of like, they say the same thing, just in a different way. So we're going to kind of bunch those together and come up with, you know, what are our 5 projects to get there. So we'll make it into more of a short-term timeline for the 5-year period, and then we'll probably update it again in 5 more years.
I won't ask you to tell us all of those strategies, but are there main components or strategies that you would want to mention right now?
Well, I can kind of bunch them up. There's 4 strategies. So there's strategies for buildings and energy, for transportation, for waste, and for food access, agriculture, and green space. So those are kind of our 4 categories. And that there is a variety of strategies in each one, 10 to 12 in each one. And so I could basically, my top 4 priorities right now can be summed up in, let's put solar on buildings, let's start working on converting fleets and public transit and even individual vehicles to hybrids or electric vehicles. Building and energy and transportation are our 2 biggest emitters. They make up the majority of our emissions. So those 2 are high on my list. And waste, we need to divert waste. We need to start putting leftover food in compost programs. We need to recycle more. And then green space, it's kind of the same thing. We need urban green infrastructure for climate resiliency. We need better community gardens, more nature-based solutions to store carbon, like meadows and woods. So all of those things are important. But that's an idea of kind of the strategies and what they involve.
You mentioned stakeholders in all of this, and community partners, stakeholders are so important in long-term plans like this.
Yeah.
How do you plan to engage, or how are you already planning to engage with our community partners? I know WNIN is one of them, correct?
Right, correct. Yes, so we are looking for any and all partnerships to get the job done, right? And, every little project has its own timeline and budget and partners that it needs for success. So we have a lot of projects, we have a lot of partners, and we're working with on a daily basis. We're working with WNIN on the climate engagement grant that we went after, and that's just a grant to, engage the community in the climate issues and solutions.
More about educating?
Yeah, more about educating. Mm-hmm.
Which I think is important here, because I feel like we were talking about earlier, sometimes it is, well, I can't see it, I don't feel it right now, or I'm not even noticing that it's happening, so it's not on the forefront of my mind.
Yeah.
So having that education is so important. Well, there's a few other groups, if you want to call them that I want to ask you about. The Community Voices for Climate Action Group.
Yeah.
Long name, but important group.
It is a long name. Well, basically, last summer, there was a lot of action on sustainability. I was hired on to start working on it for the city. Leadership Everyone had Voices sessions, and they identified sustainability as one of their top 6 projects. And EREP, the Evansville Regional Economic Partnership, was also starting a sustainability group, because they also had work sessions, listening sessions, whatever you call them, with industry and business. So those 3 were kind of starting up at the same time, and there were others. UE's Change Labs was also really big in the community of just getting out there and thinking about sustainability. So anyway, as a city agency, we really need to talk to our community. We need to get their input, and we need to provide outreach to get the word out. So we basically partnered with Leadership Everyone, and basically joined our efforts to create a citizen action group, and that's what this Community Voices group is. So citizen action group, which just means that it's kind of a way for people that are really passionate about this to come together and discuss ideas, discuss ways to collaborate, discuss resources. So basically, we started meeting monthly, and we have a core group that comes every month. But it's open to the public for people that want to learn more about how to help. So it's a way for the community to get involved, and it's a way for us to, as a city agency, to get out there and do some more outreach. So that group has also started a big table. So every other month we'll have an opportunity for not-for-profits in the community that are doing work in sustainability to come in and talk about it. And we'll talk about needs and challenges and ways we can work together.
What is the response like when you're, touching these communities, people that have interests, maybe have never really done their research in climate change, and even our business partners, our community partners? What is the response like when you have these conversations?
Well, it's amazing, actually. I've been in this realm for 20, 25 years, and I will say when I took this position, I expected a whole lot of pushback, but I have not seen it. Since 2020, I think the awareness has exponentially grown about our problem and ways and expectations of how we solve it. So the people that I encounter are very supportive. Even if they don't support all of it, they support clean air and they support reducing energy costs. Those are very important problems for every single person. So very supportive. Even businesses. I mean, I'm working with businesses that what I see is that they might have offices all over the country, and in many places in the country, they're doing great things for sustainability. And then here in Evansville, they're like, what are we doing? What should we be doing? Right. So they're basically wanting to model what they see their company doing in other cities. Because that's the expectation in today's age is, we need to be environmentally responsible and sustainable.
I think you're leading into this next answer here, but I want to end on a good note. What are some of the recent success stories or maybe projects or anything maybe down the line that you are going to find successful that the city has either implemented or is planning on implementing in regards to climate change?
Well, we're just getting started, and it takes a little bit of time. to gather your resources and your partners and actually schedule things and get things done. But we are working really hard every day. I'm a department of 2. I'm the director, and then I have a climate and compliance specialist, Nicole Chandler. And so we work tightly together. We also just started an intern from IU that is going to help us for the summer. And so basically we have a lot of work to do, but we've got some successes so far. We got in Evansville designated as a Indiana clean community. So that involved a environmental compliance check, and basically because we're taking proactive action steps to be more of an environmentally sustainable city and improve our air quality, we are designated as a clean community now. So that's exciting.
Awesome.
And we also got Soul Smart designation, which is a voluntary recognition for putting in steps to make getting solar an easier, more affordable option for the average person or developer or business. So those are a couple of small wins. And but we are working every day with collaborative partners and have a lot of projects on the table, working on a lot of grant opportunities. So we'll start seeing some success.
Yeah,
and
it sounds like we already are. Yeah, absolutely. We're
yeah.
excited to talk to you again when we get further down the line here. But as we wrap up, where can people learn more about the plan for climate change?
Well, the Evansville Climate Action Plan, you can just Google it and find that document. You can also go to the Evansville-Vanderburgh County website and find my agency to read more about it. We have a Facebook page for Evansville Climate Collaborative, so you can touch base with us there. Our email is climate@evansville.in.gov. And we are working on a project right now to develop a new website, and we will be launching an online dashboard where the community can see what our goals are, what our steps are, and what our progress is on reducing emissions and energy use. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Very important conversation today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having it and for giving it your attention.
Welcome to a special WNIN Newsmakers segment that highlights local businesses. Joining us today is Sarah Capehart, Chief Joy Officer at Allegria Accessories. Thank you for bringing joy to us today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me about what kind of products and services your business provides.
Absolutely. So our product is handmade jewelry, but the true service, or I think the product we provide, is we are creating jobs in Honduras for young ladies that grew up at an orphanage there called Faith Home that my parents were the founding directors of. And the young women do not find safe living wage jobs when they age out. And it's led to a lot of poverty, even exploitation. So after hearing about that for 20 years, it was time for me to do something, and I started a jewelry brand. And so young women now have a safe full-time job in Honduras, handcrafting the jewelry.
So as someone, I assume that they're teaching them how to make these, and then it's sent here to be sold, or is it?
So actually, handcrafting jewelry in Honduras is quite a trade that many women pick up there.
Maybe something they kind of grow up learning how to do. Okay.
And there are classes, there are just kind of, it's passed along. Like we might pass along to our kids how to cook or sew or can, garden. That's something that they pass along to each other. We have 3 supervisors there that have become very, very good at their craft. And so as we bring on a new artisan, they will train them in what we would like to see in the quality.
And so what types of jewelry are they making?
Everything is a fashion jewelry product, so it's going to be generously 14 karat gold plated or sterling silver plated. It's all hypoallergenic. That's taken some fun sourcing in Honduras, but we're there. We use all genuine stones, like this is going to be a rose quartz. We have moonstone, pearl, lots of different stones that we can source there, and Bisuterías in Honduras. Our metals, mostly we do have to source outside of the country, because we want to make sure of the quality of it. But they're hand fashioning the pieces together, usually with traditional wire wrapping techniques, and just designing gorgeous pieces that are original for them.
So remind me, how long have you been in business?
Just a little over 3 years.
Okay,
So
and where are you located? I mean, you actually have a brick and mortar, or is it website? I mean,
yes.
both?
So we have an office, a fulfillment office in Innovation Point at 318 Main Street, just a few blocks away. but we're an online presence only when it comes to retail. So online, I also will do pop-ups all over at our First Fridays and the craft shows and street festivals and things like that. But mostly we're focusing on expanding into wholesale and partnering with brick and mortar stores so that they can carry our collection there.
So how do you see your business growing? I mean, that's kind of a nice little segue there, and maybe expanding.
Well, we always want to enlist new joy creators, which is what we call our customers, and help them shop on our website and shop directly with us. But the biggest way we would like to grow over the next 3 to 5 years is to expand our wholesale so that more stores can carry our jewelry in person. Jewelry just sells better in person
And
than
people
from
can
a
see
picture.
it, right? And because it does look different in pictures a lot of
Absolutely.
times. I've had that happen.
Absolutely.
So what challenges have you faced, and how did you overcome those challenges?
The first huge challenge was just a mindset shift. First of all, although my parents lived in Honduras, I had not. So I did not speak any Spanish at all. So my daily routine is to practice Spanish on Duolingo to continue to become better at just overcoming that language barrier, but the culture barrier, and just having a North American mindset that, no fault of our own, it's how we grew up, but it's a different culture and a different society in Honduras, and they grew up differently. So being able to bridge the culture gap is probably my biggest obstacle I've had to overcome, and not seeing us as heroes, actually the young women that are making a life for themselves and a job for themselves by carving out a beautiful niche and creating handcrafted jewelry. They're the heroes. They're the ones that are survivors and overcoming and creating jewelry. I just happen to be the lucky person that gets to bring it to the United States.
So what would you say is the most gratifying aspect of your business?
Just watching as the young women's lives change, watching their children get to go to school and be healthy and grow up with proper nutrition, and a mom who can spend the time she needs to with her children, but yet work a job where she can provide for them. Hearing them say things like, the first year I went down, please take me and the kids home in your suitcase. And now having them say, I don't want to go with you anymore. I love the life I'm building here.
That's great.
We're making a change.
So
That's the most gratifying.
how can people get the jewelry?
You can go to our website, which is alegriaaccessories.com. And I'm sure that word is a little strange. It's the word joy in Spanish. So it's ALEGRIA accessories.com. And that's our website where you can order, and you can even pick up here on Main Street at our office, or we can ship all over the United States. Or you can go to our website and find all of the stores that carry us and go shop in person. Go and see it and try it and touch it and support local boutiques too.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm anxious to see it.
Yes, yes. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Thanks to our guests for joining us to talk about the climate change initiatives in the area. Next week, we'll be discussing events coming this summer in the tri-state. Thanks for watching WNIN Newsmakers.